Sheldon Keefe publicly calls out Ilya Samsonov after a rough start to the beginning of the season, but it looks like the Leafs' young backup goaltender Joseph Woll might be ready to take the leap and take on a bigger role. Welcome back to Third Man In. I'm Zack Phillips. In today's video, that is right, we are going to be talking about some of the goalie issues surrounding this Toronto Maple Leafs team. While you can sit here and look at, yes, defense definitely needs to be better, and that definitely does not help the goaltending situation, because you can look around the league, and we heard people talking about the fact that, hey, good goaltenders come here and seem to struggle with this Toronto team, and maybe sometimes you have to look at the fact that it's the guys in front of them and the way that they're playing in front that doesn't necessarily help. But that being said, Ilya Samsonov has started this season incredibly poorly, and it has not resulted well for anybody, whether that be himself or the guys in front of him, making his defense look maybe even marginally worse than they actually are playing at this current moment in time. Before we get into all of that, the head coach calling out the current Leafs starter and this young future stud, I just want to remind people, if you are watching this video right now, you have not subscribed here to the Third Man In channel, please make sure to do so. Take 2 seconds out of your day, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you get notified every single time that we go live or more videos just like this one come out. You don't want to miss anything with this Leafs team this season, especially as things continue to heat up. But let's get into the topics here today. First and foremost, Sheldon Keefe calling out Ilya Samsonov after the win against the Tampa Bay Lightning the other day, 4-3 in overtime, which you're going to sit here, and if you didn't follow along, you're going to go 4-3 in overtime win, massive comeback. Why is he calling him out? Well, Ilya Samsonov has really struggled to start this season. He's got 4 games played. He's 2-1. He's allowed in 14 goals against, a 4.35 goals against average with an 8.31 save percentage. And then on Saturday night, he goes in net. The Leafs take a lead with a Nylander goal to go up 1-0 in Tampa on the road after a hard-fought game against Florida a couple days before, and Samsonov proceeds to allow 3 goals on 4 shots, getting him the yank, in which he had already been struggling to start this season. Mark Masters via Twitter after the game tweeted out that when he asked Sheldon Keefe about the decision to pull Samsonov, Sheldon Keefe just said, "You can't let in 3 goals on 4 shots. That's it." Now, this isn't the most egregious call out, but this is very pointed, very straightforward, and very, very, very obviously a message through the media back to Samsonov. Because as much as he could sit there and say to Sammy, you got to be better, this is holding him publicly accountable. Now, I'm curious to see where this one goes, because we've seen Sheldon Keefe in the past, i.e. Mitch Marner last year, call him out, call out the young guys on this team, call out the stars, and then just quickly walk it back because of whether it was management who told him to do so or agents or whatever. He's gone back out into the media and basically said, oh, I didn't mean that, and he's trying to protect feelings. Well, Samsonov obviously knows that he needs to be better, but Sheldon Keefe just went ahead and said what every single person in the entire world, including Ilya Samsonov, was thinking. That was not good enough. You cannot be doing that. So when Sheldon Keefe goes out in the media and says, you can't let in 3 goals on 4 shots, that's it. It is a pretty pointed call out of the Leafs starting goaltender, who did just get paid in this offseason and will be heading to free agency at the end of this year. It is interesting because, I mean, you're looking at here at a spot where you've got Samsonov, who struggled. He had stretches last year where he would take these dips and not play that great for a little bit, but then he would come back and get hot again. But last year he was more in a spot where he had Eric Chalgren behind him. He had Matt Murray, who was going in and out of IR, so there wasn't as much of a goalie kind of controversy or push. Whereas this year, you do have that, and you've got it in the form of Joseph Woll. Woll comes in relief of Samsonov on Saturday night. He makes 29 saves, allows 0 goals, and he helps backstop this Leafs team to a massive, massive comeback victory in overtime against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like, you're sitting there with this Leafs team putting up tremendous amount of pressure, scoring chances, shots on goal, if you want to just take it for a box score of what it was. And on the flip side, you have Ilya Samsonov starting in net, allowing 3 on the first 4. You're never going to be able to win that way. So Joseph Woll comes in, makes 29 saves, and helps this team get that win. That is massive. I respect the call out by Sheldon Keefe. I don't think there's a problem with it. I'm praying that he doesn't come back out into the media and say something along the lines of I shouldn't have said that or that's not what I meant or whatever. Because you know what? Whether he was angry about the situation or not, what he said is the truth. What he said is rooted in reality. And it's not like you can sit here and say, well, that was too harsh or that was too ridiculous. He's been bad to start this season. He was really bad on Saturday night to start that game, and that's unacceptable. You're supposed to be the starter. I get it. It's going to be a little bit of a shaky start, but at some point here, brother, start to figure this one out because this team needs you to be good this year. This team needs you in order to have some type of success. Obviously, Joseph Woll back there is nice, but you can't just run with one guy for the entire season. Even if you're going to be the backup, you got to be better than that. Now, this leads us to the second point of this conversation. Joseph Woll might be ready to take over this opportunity here in Toronto. Now, last season, I went into the year and I said, I know that they signed both these guys. They brought both these guys in Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov. I think Ilya Samsonov will be the number one guy by the end of the season. And I said more so because of Samsonov's play than anything else. Now, a couple things ended up going in my favor in that prediction, and that was obviously, Matt Murray suffered from injuries, and that held him out and gave Samsonov an opportunity to take over the job. So naturally, he was going to get that push to be the starter. And B, Samsonov actually played incredible, and he did win over that starting job. I came into this season and I predicted Ilya Samsonov, he will lose this starting job to Joseph Woll. Now, there's a couple reasons behind that prediction, and I think some of these are starting to play out. First and foremost, this Leafs team is invested in Joseph Woll. They did sign him to a bigger contract, or a contract with some term, I guess, at least a couple of years ago, which made him virtually unwaivable this season because now he's going to have to clear waivers if they did want to send him down, causing all the Martin Jones controversy at the beginning of this season. And on top of that, this kid has been very good so far through his minimal NHL appearances. In 13 starts in the NHL, or 13 appearances, he's 10-3. He's got a .928 save percentage. And last year in the playoffs, when Samsonov went down with injury, Joseph Woll stepped in and was incredible in the playoffs for this Leafs team. Not just did he step in and play well, he was not the reason that this Leafs team had lost those games or lost in that series against Florida at all. Joseph Woll was very, very good when he stepped in. So they obviously see something in him, feel like there's going to be a little bit more to his game, feel like there's some more growth to be happening here. And on top of that, I think he's really, really good. I think we've got an opportunity with this kid where he might not be the next Sorokin, Shesterkin, Vasilevsky, but he could be one of those very good goaltenders who sticks around your team for a long period of time, can get hot at the exact right time where he goes on an absolute heater in the playoffs and helps carry you to a Stanley Cup win. I think he could be one of those guys. I hope it's here in Toronto, but if it's not, I could still envision that happening for him on any team that he lands on because I think he's got the tools and the mindset to be able to do so. Obviously had a little bit of a rough path to get here, faced some injuries, had to face getting sent down, whether it was to juniors or back to the AHL and then called up. There was guys ahead of him the entire time, but now he's got a clear path, and I think he can take this over. He was interviewed in the Score earlier today, and he did say, I feel ready. He said he feels like all the experience he's had has prepared him for this. In the past couple of seasons, he wasn't ready, and now that he's got the opportunities, he's been able to get into some games, he's seen some playoff action, he does feel like he is ready to take that leap and jump in at the NHL level. Now, if that's not convincing enough, here's a statement from the head coach, again, via Mark Masters' Twitter, where he said, when he was asked about Joseph Woll playing in Washington and pushing Samsonov for that starting position, he's pushing. To me, this is a massive sign. It follows up Keefe calling out Samsonov for his poor start on Saturday. It follows Samsonov having a rough season and every single person in all of Toronto knowing that he started rough. And then it follows Woll jumping in and playing very well in that game against Tampa to help push this Leafs team to a win. And then you hear from the head coach about the fact that he's been pushing in practice. He's looked really, really good. He's been fighting for that starting net. And now he's going to get an opportunity here to go in against Washington, continuing on this road trip and maybe see if he can start to take over this starting position. I think Joseph Woll could be the next future stud goaltender in the NHL. Not to the Shesterkin, Vasilevsky type level, but hey, maybe he could be that just under tier, that next wave of guys who are just always really good, maybe not necessarily elite for consistent periods of time, but elite at the right time. I'm excited to see what Joseph Woll can continue to bring. I'm not necessarily panicked about this goalie situation because remember, Martin Jones still is sitting there with the Toronto Marlies in a position where he could be called up. They do have some young guys, and potentially in a video coming up soon here, the Leafs actually might have the next Vasilevsky, Shesterkin, or Sorokin in this young stud kid that they've got over in Russia right now. So tune into the channel. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, obviously, so that you don't miss any live streams, any videos just like this one. But thank you guys so much for tuning in here. I look forward to reading your comments, your thoughts on Woll, your thoughts on Samsonov, whether you like or dislike Sheldon Keefe calling out the starting goaltender after a poor performance. I want to hear it all, but thank you guys so much for tuning in here. As always, keep believing.